Hey Dreamlings, it's Siffa. I'm here to share what happened to me at a retreat that I went on over New Year's. I went on a Buddhist retreat and I learned really so much about myself, and I want to share it with you guys to see if any of y'all can relate, or can relate to what I learned and maybe learn something from it. So I'd been reading some books on Buddhism, and I realized that in many ways, and you can even see this through my YouTube, I've had my YouTube for years now, and you can kind of see that in some ways I've taken my suffering and my past trauma and I've almost worn it like a badge of honor. And I've almost used it as my identity in a bad way. In the way that I somehow thought deep inside of me, not consciously, but deep inside, I thought that my suffering was who I was. And I thought that I was a sick girl. Not a woman, even, but a sick and suffering girl. And I thought that that was who I was at my core. And because I'd been suffering for so long, for my whole life, I felt helpless. And I felt as if I couldn't change anything. But now I realize that not only am I not suffering, if I do suffer, I am not my suffering. And I will suffer. I will always suffer. But I'm not my suffering. And I have so much more to me than what I've been through and my suffering. And now that I can let go of the identity of a suffering girl, I realize that I am a strong and courageous woman. I'm powerful. I'm spiritual, I'm nice, I'm empathetic, I'm a hard worker, I fought hard for what I have. I'm in graduate school. In a year and a half, I'm going to be a therapist. This is getting real. And, I have myself to thank for that. It's my hard work on myself that got me to where I am today, emotionally and mentally. And what really helped me was community, entering the spiritual community. And I'm not saying everyone has to be spiritual and that works for everyone, but finding some way to empower yourself. And finding something, a new identity. So I changed my identity from a suffering girl to a strong spiritual woman. And that's how I see myself now, or how I try to. It's not like it went off like that, the light bulb, and now I'm all better. It's still going to take a lot of work. But I realize now that I'm such a strong woman. And I'm a woman, I'm not a girl anymore. And now let me say, there's nothing wrong with being proud of what you've gotten through and thinking about your suffering and kind of being sad about it. But for me, it was harmful, So I guess, the other thing that I learned is that in a way I have been addicted to suffering because I never knew anything else than suffering. I would kind of look for ways to suffer unconsciously. And I'm not saying that I made myself suffer, because obviously I do have problems with my brain chemistry and brain anatomy that have caused me a lot of mental distress. But certain things I was doing were making me suffer more. Like listening to sad music and talking to certain people that would get me down and laying in bed all day on Facebook. Things that would perpetuate that suffering. And so now I try to fill my life with things that, aren't related to suffering and that empower me, make me feel better. So, yeah, it's really mind-blowing having this new identity that I can grow into and really embrace myself and realize that not that my past was something that I pity myself for. I'm not going to pity myself that I had a rough childhood and a rough young adult years. I'm going to look at that as something that is going to make me a fucking badass therapist. Excuse my language. Something that's going to make me a really great therapist, a really great healer, and all this experience is really valuable, to me at least. And I understand it's not really fair that I had to go through what I did and that we have to go through these things. But I found a way to reframe it in my mind. And instead of pitying myself, now I use it to empower myself. And say, this is what I went through, and now this is what I'm going to do with that, you know. And my YouTube has given me the opportunity to share my story and help people through sharing my stories. And it's been very good for me. But I think in some ways it was also kind of a cry for attention at times. And, which isn't bad. You know, everyone goes through phases. And that was what I needed at the time. At the time I needed attention. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, there's nothing wrong with going through changes in your life and going through periods where you need different things. But now, you know, I fill my needs with other things. You know, my needs are filled with spirituality. And, so yeah, that's just what I want to share with y'all. I'd like to make more videos, so keep posted, and it's lovely seeing all my Dreamlings. Y'all have a great day. Bye.